This is Lord Dudley. He's a 2-year-old Georgian Grande gelding at the Hillside Center in Sedalia, Colorado. He's under the care of trainer Jennifer Diamond. Lord Dudley is about to go through the training of becoming a riding horse. The Hillside Center has guest horseman Peter Borggreve starting Lord Dudley.
He's been on the jumping Olympic team. He's been on the dressage Olympic team. He was headmaster at the Longestute. He ran the breeding for Germany of all the horses with the government for 9 years. He's a coach of the Olympic teams. He breaks his own horses. He sells all his horses. He breeds still for himself privately. So I mean, there's really no short way to describe Peter. So here's Peter, and he's learning Dudley's name for the first time and starting to work him from the ground with very simple aids. Telling him that he has to go forward, that he cannot come in and look at Peter. And he just wants to work a little bit on a very loose line, no side reins. And he drives him around a little bit to just get him going forward and to catch his attention with very light tugs on the rein. And he's teaching him voice commands with the brr, which means slow down, but don't stop. Just relax and stay calm. And the way that Peter holds the line ensures that the line isn't going to go slipping too far out, and he can keep a hold of Dudley when he hits the end of the line. So the horse starts to learn how to move around, the person asking him of things. And he's trying to work here about how small the trot can be, or how forward he can go, and to make the walk transition. Dudley's a little inattentive because he's never seen mirrors before, so he thinks that there's something to look at. There's another horse in here. But instead of yanking him to the inside and saying, hey, you listen to me, Peter instead moves the horse on to catch his attention. And you'll see with the inside ear that steadily over time, Peter will catch his inside ear, that he starts paying attention. And now here we change the line to more about where the rider is going to be riding. And then the side reins are also on. And they're not on tight. They're just there to give him a little bit of a feel. And the line does the work on the inside rein. So Dudley is now learning contact. And so Peter keeps moving him along and telling him he's a good boy when he gives in and keeps his attention and walks very softly across the ground. And when he doesn't, Peter puts just a little bit of pressure on the line to say, hey, I need your attention over here, but this is also contact. So it's a very light way of teaching him contact so that the horse doesn't learn how to have a heavy contact, and that he doesn't need to pull, and he doesn't have to pull with the mouth, that he can actually reach over the back and touch the contact. It's not going to hurt him. So now he's trying to really get into canter and to keep the contact. And that's very hard with Dudley because he likes trotting. And you see the line stays a little bit more tight because Dudley is making more of an oval and Peter wants him to go around a circle. Now we change the directions, and each horse has their own direction, and this is not Dudley's direction. He's a little bit more tricky to the right. He doesn't want to give in. He always wants to go to the left. And so Peter has to say, no, you must come here. So you'll see the line comes in just a bit tighter than it did on the left-hand side. And so Dudley has to start dealing with the contact and moving forward, and he just doesn't feel like it. And you can see how he pulls sideways, but Peter stays there. And he just moves on the hind legs, and he gives him a little bit more of like a whistle, which is like, hey, keep going, but not too fast. Now you see Dudley starts to accept it, and the inside ear comes to Peter 99% of the time. Dudley struggles just a little bit there where he overbends the neck, and we don't want that. We'd want him just to give and stay on the contact. So Peter drives him forward while bending him. Hey, you cannot avoid the contact, you go forward. And then he says, good job. And Dudley takes it as good boy-itis and says, no, I'm not going to canter. So Peter pushes on, and then he says he's a good boy, because every time Dudley responds in the right way, he gets a good boy. There he says, no, 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 because he doesn't want him to stop. He wants him to keep trotting and pick up his back and carry the weight over his back and the energy over the back and very softly to the inside rein. Here he gets a little bit pulling to the left-hand side, and Peter says, no, this is not what's happening. Everything he does is in a very gentle way. He doesn't have to pull very hard, and you see that he puts his hand down just a little bit lower instead of keeping it, you know, really high and tight. So the tension on the line doesn't stay tight. It just stays the way it is. Oh, he gets some praise for being such a good boy. All right, so here we are starting on day 2. And we start again with a very loose line to reestablish the verbal commands, but without pressure anywhere. All Dudley has to do is listen to the commands of going forward without restriction. And he's just being held on the line, and he's gently putting him to work so that Dudley doesn't think that he comes into the arena and it's all games. No, you come to the arena and now it's work, but increasingly, you know, more work. He changes directions to make sure that he's good from side to side. Dudley looks really good. He's still looking a bit to the outside, but at least he's responding a bit better to the commands and is staying trotting and a bit more balanced without any pressure. So you always start off a little bit easier, and then you go into hooking up the side reins and putting the lunge line up top. The side reins are not tight, they're just loose and flopping from side to side. But now you see that the day before Dudley understood, and now Dudley says, okay, I actually can go round from here. And he attempts to try and be round over the back and over the top line. And Peter keeps driving him, and he puts a little bit more pressure to the inside, like what we need when we're in the saddle. And he gently keeps coaxing him forward and bending and bending, that the horse gets used to it and catches his balance a little bit better. And now he teaches him, now you have to slow down, and you have to pick up, and he moved to the center of the ring that Dudley doesn't have any support. And then he wants him to walk, and real walk, not just kind of, you know, walking along like you're going to break into houses, but marching along.
To accept myself as I really am, in the core of my being. Life, I offer you my hand. Let's dance. The Mi'kmaq Comfort Girth, Anatomical Freedom. Go to mi'kmaq.com.
Time for Mr. Truck, reviewing the latest innovations for your truck and trailer. Brought to you by
Transwest Truck Trailer RV, your horse trailer superstore, with RV coaches for towing, Summit Hauler for large trailers, Cimarron and Logan can coach.
What we're going to do is demonstrate this, the most powerful drill I've found on the market. It's called the Flex Hammer Drill with 1,400 inch-pounds of torque. So, first of all, you've got to take the drill and put it on the quick cranker tool. And you've got to make sure that the drill chuck is going to be locked as tight as you can get it. The setting, in order to lift this 12,000 pounds of structural steel, has to be set at the hammer side, right there, and it could be set at any of the numbers. Now what we're going to do is demonstrating how to handle this drill with your hips, because this, trying to lift 12,000 pounds of structural steel, a lot of horsepower involved in this. And checking the chuck, he's bracing the drill against his hip, but he has to know which way he's going. So standing on the right side of the drill, go for it. There you go. Good. Up or down, go. It's helpful, all you customers. And we really appreciate all of you folks that are buying this gadget. It's foolproof.
Join me, Mr. Truck, on Equestrian Nation, where I search the country for the cool products for your truck and trailer.
For more information on Mr. Truck's product reviews, go to mrtruck.com.
Okay, so now he changes sides to that right-hand side. And then Peter asks me, do I think that everything is ready? And I said, yeah, absolutely, I'm ready. He asked me, do I want to get on? And I'm like, yes, absolutely, I want to get on. And you'll see me walking around behind him because Peter still has the control. And Dudley is not allowed to stop. He's supposed to stop out in the open with confidence by himself before he's permitted to be mounted. And he has to stand there, that he doesn't search for human contact so quickly, but that he understands that human contact is there. He is supported, but he is to stay supported and be out on the line. It's a very important thing for young horses to get that confidence, and then we can approach them. So now we're getting ready. We're going to take everything off, and on I go. I have the utmost in confidence in Peter that if anything happens, Peter can hang on. And all my job is to do is to ride. And Peter's job is to keep me safe. And so now we start going, and the idea is the same. So we go from being on the ground and having the side reins to no side reins, because my hand becomes the side rein. And you'll watch how I just gently pick up the rein, and I continue on the work that Peter had done with the lunge line run through the bit to the saddle. And I keep my inside rein very softly. I'm very softly steering, but I'm not without leg. So now is the time to be able to put the leg on. Previous days before Peter had gotten there, we had worked on that. And so now I'm adding that in, plus being on top of him. And so Peter's helping me out a little bit here about getting him going, keeping the confidence of the young horse. And we're going to get ready to trot, so we have to pick up the pace on the walk a little bit, and now we go. And once we're going, and that's okay. There's always a little bit of a mistake because it's weird, I'm bouncing around. You have to remember that nobody has been bouncing around on him. And I stay sitting for that reason, and I try and stay on top of Dudley's balance. Peter takes over from the ground where I cannot take over from the saddle quite yet. And so when he takes over, it's more like I'm riding, yes, I'm there, but I have to relinquish the control to Peter to fix things so we can keep trotting around. And that Dudley understands that there's no difference between Peter being on the ground or me being in the saddle. Now we're off and going. And my whole job is to walk the horse by shifting left or right, because we're turning left. So my balance stays to the left, my rein stays on the left, and my right rein stays very loose. And here Peter asked me to make a transition from myself and then to try and make a transition up by myself. That Dudley starts to be ridden with aids plus the voice command that we can control from the ground and from the saddle. And we have to build that understanding. So part of Dudley's ears are back on me, and part of Dudley's ears are listening to Peter. And slowly over time, as you're watching this, Peter lets me have more control, and he relinquishes more control. And so we build off of each other from the saddle and from the ground to help the horse understand that this is everyday life, nothing strange. We're just going to keep going, and I'm just going to ride and put my leg on and ride and give him the rein and pat him from the top that he feels that and stay as steady as I can. And now he wanted him to walk, and you see my outside rein took a very light touch, and Dudley understood that. But he still wants real walk. And Peter tucks the whip into his arm because he's not wanting to create more pressure. He wants me to create the pressure to stop and to go. Now he gets a pat. Dudley didn't expect that because he's used to Peter walking up and giving him a pat, and now it's just happening and Peter is out there. So horses have to think a little bit more when you're under saddle and with a person on the ground. So we're going to go ahead and change the directions, and the rules don't change. It's just that this right-hand side is a little bit more tricky for him. So Peter will let me stay like a passenger and let the rein out a little bit, like the line out, and let Dudley go out, and then I'm a little bit on control with my inside rein. And then we play the same game that we played when we were on the left-hand side. Sometimes I have the control, and sometimes Peter has the control, and the both of us just have to know who is needed where and when. And so Peter is letting him go out. We're trying to do the walk, and he's relaxing a little bit to the right, which is good. And I have to stay very soft on this side, because this is the side that Dudley wants to pull to go to the left. And if I get harder on the rein, he'll definitely lock onto that and go flying sideways. And then neither Peter or I will have the control. So I stay very light on the right rein, and we're going to work at it a little bit here at the walk. And you can see my leg gives him a little bump bumps, bump bumps, bump bumps, and it's very quiet. And my hand stays really quiet. Here I try to re-steer out just a little bit because he doesn't really connect with the inside leg. And then Peter's going to stay driving a little bit behind Dudley to keep him going forward, and then we stop. And you see Peter says, okay, there we go. Good, nice pat. Everything takes time. Let the horse have a moment to relax, and then we move on again. So as best I can right now, I'm actually in Peter's hands because he's going to need to be able to send him out, and I have to stay on the rein as we get trotting. So here we get to take off trotting. My left rein stays very light and mostly loose. You can see it bounce around in the background. I don't care about it. It's not really that important. The important rein is the inside rein. You know, inside one rein stops, or inside bending, or turning, or a combination depending on the level of the horse. And this, what we do here now, sets the pace for all of Dudley's riding into the future. So anything that we do with him here, it will make sense to him in the future as he goes up the levels or maybe gets a little more advanced doing different things. Here he fell a little bit behind, and so Peter's going to help me by flicking the whip and moving him forward. And I stay on him just very quietly. You see how soft in the elbows? And now Dudley says, oh, okay, I can carry you, but he's a little bit scared about it because it's very weird. And I just stay calm. I give him a pat, good boy, from the outside because my inside rein stays steady. And when you're looking at this and you take off into like the Grand Prix horses or as you go up the levels, these rules will remain true the entire time he's ridden. The inside rein is always directional. It's bending, it's pushing them through, it's connecting them from the back to the front. It's being very soft and light on the outside rein so that you can touch it when you want and let it go, that the horses always have a way to get out of the pressure. And they understand that. And so when you get up the level and you touch that outside rein too heavy, they're supposed to really stop and hit the brakes. And if you unfortunately hold on to it too long, you'll send a horse straight through the ceiling. And we don't want that, so we're just teaching him this is the way it's going to be. We promise that every rider is going to ride you this way, and this is the way we want you to go. And he really relaxes and puts his head down. A little bit of steering out with the left rein, but keeping the right rein very steady. And I watch him very carefully to make sure that he stays relaxed. I don't want him to have a bad experience. I don't want to, kick him pretty big on this side. I want him to march underneath me like we're going someplace. And Peter says, good, and Dudley understands. The sneezing is actually really good. Horses really can't sneeze if they're not relaxed in the back, and that's important. So now Dudley learns that we're going to trot, we're going to do things, we're going to walk, we're going to stay consistent between Peter and I. We stay very consistent in what we're asking for, and nothing changed. And then he stands there, and he's very good because he doesn't face Peter now. He understands I'm in the saddle. And so we're going to teach him that we're going to stop, we're going to go, that there is no time limit to what we're doing, just consistency. That's what we want. Much more relaxed. Very easy from the leg. Super walk steps. And then we stop again. And then he gets another pat. And even better than the last time, he doesn't even attempt to look at Peter. He now understands that I also have the control in the saddle, that I am to be trusted. And then he gathers up his line, and Peter thanks him for the work, gives him a pat, tells him he's a good boy. But Peter comes all the way in for safety and changes the sides of his line before I go ahead and eventually pop off. Because we get on and we get off by one side. Oh, he's going to take me around. I'd forgotten about that. Now he wants me to go around the whole ring. Isn't that fun? So Peter just is pony walking me around that he can see the end of the mirrors with the rider on, that he can see a rider on him from two different sets of the mirrors. Nothing terribly important. You can see Peter has all the control. He's telling Dudley how he is to behave, and I am literally a body in the saddle, on for the ride. And he's telling him he's a good boy and very super. And you see Peter talks to him all the time, and with this tone of voice that's very welcoming. And now I'm talking from the saddle, and Dudley gets to hear that. Good boy, Dudley. And you can see the moment that we both agree, now it's enough. Now he's been a good boy, now he understands. Good boy, Dudley. So basically, when other people start a horse, they pop them into a round pen and they run them until they're tired, till there's no spirit left on the horse. And then they get on. You get on a horse that has had the spirit taken away from him. They are so tired. And what they relate is that I am so exhausted and now this person's getting on. And I don't really like that, simply because it's not good for the horse's mind. And in the future, they look at work as, you know, I don't have any self-preservation, I might as well not work, or the reverse extreme, which is, oh my gosh, I have so much stress, here we are, I'm gonna start sweating before we even hit the pen. This way that we do it is telling the horse how we want things to happen and where we want things to happen, and then giving them the chance to think about it themselves. Because if a horse is thinking for themselves, they're more likely to take care of you too in the saddle and to listen when you don't overface them with so much.